Yeah, so.
I know, I gotta try sometime though. All right, so welcome everyone to our first candidates night. I'm here to talk to our candidates that are running for planning board and selectmen. Our candidate that took out papers for the school board is out of town, but she has written up answers to questions and those will be posted on Facebook and handed out shortly. Along with it, the members here tonight want to write up anything, they're welcome to, and we'll post it at the same time. So to get started, we'll stand and do the pledge of allegiance real quick. I
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So to get started, we'll go down the line. I'll start with Diane. If you could just introduce yourself and let us know what motivated you to run for planning board.
Diane Ray, I've lived in town since 2001, but have been hanging out here since 1983. When I met my husband. I think I joined the planning board before 2018. I don't remember exactly when, so that's been at least 8 years. During that time, there's some specific mandates that the town had to take on, like we required by the state to have a shoreline zoning ordinance, which we didn't have updated. And it was clear that we had some ordinances that hadn't been touched in 30 years. And so let's get everything updated. And we're almost there, not quite, but almost. And then it'll be time to go back and start again. But I feel like that's a mission to kind of stay and see that through. And then really the comprehensive plan was last done in 2004. That's supposed to be done every 10 years. So working on that now, it's getting pretty exciting. So whether things that keep me excited and wanting to stay in.
Josh, want to introduce yourself? Let us know why you want this lesson.
I'm Josh, lived here in Canton 14 years now. Raising my family here, so I have a real stake in Canton's future. Over time, I paid more attention to how decisions are made. Felt like I could step up and help out. Just want to be part of making a difference in our town and help make some practical common sense decisions.
Carol, your turn.
Carol Ferris, I've been on the board since 2017, which does seem like a very long time. I initially came on, my philosophy is kind of, if you don't want to be part of the solution, you shouldn't be talking about the problem. And put your money where your mouth is, and do some work. I initiated the cemetery restoration project, so to speak, that we started prior to the bicentennial. That's kind of a near and dear thing. We've come a very long way, still have a long way to go. And the more overall thing is the town budget. I hate budget season, as it hurts. It hurts everybody, and I feel as a board deeply aware of it. And trying our best to minimize the pain while still keeping the services that we need to have and the employees that we need to have.
All right, so now I'll do some of the questions that we've selected. I gave the candidates the list ahead of time, and I'll go through and select some specific ones for both planning board and selectmen. So starting off on planning board, Diane, how do you think Canton should approach growth in town over the next 5 to 10 years?
I think as a town, we have to look at the big picture and identify maybe 5 or 6 key initiatives that support growth. Because you can't do everything, but you can do a lot of things. For example, where might we want additional commercial space? And how do you set commercial businesses people want to come here? Where is there a more efficient or effective place for housing? And how do you, that puts new users on the water and sewer in particular, like we know we need new users on those systems. Can we tap into the state support for like a beautified Main Street, because we have a lot of people complaining about the appearance of the town. Where can we expand or leverage trails or recreation for growth? What about community gathering spaces? Other places we can start to gather I mean, this room is great, the top of the historical society is good, ball field is good, right? But are there other places we could be having some community focused locations? And so part of that, I think for growth, the planning board is looking at a broader community engagement in the planning process approach that would take place later this year. And so we're excited to see about how to get more people involved in determining like what those things really are. You don't want 3 people to say, well, this is where the growth district needs to be. You want the whole town to have a say in that.
All right, thank you. Josh, starting off on the selectmen side of things, Carol kind of hinted towards it, a little bit. Budget and taxes are a huge thing, to look at when you're a selectman. How would you approach balancing the town budget in our current financial climate?
I think it comes down to being responsible. Look at the budget line by line, meet with this department head. Try to get some real insight, set clear priorities and understand what trade-offs we're making. We need to make sure we're getting value for what we spend. While still maintaining services people rely on. Explore grants and partnerships to help us out.
Same question for you, Carol.
Okay, as Josh said. Examine the budget line by line. I feel that we have done a good job of. I don't wanna say taking it to bare bones, but we have pared it back. From requests quite a bit in the last couple of years. There's obviously still areas that maybe could use a little fine tuning. But in my opinion, we're at the point of where's the trade-off between where we cut and where we stop it, because if we make many more cuts, there's going to be some losses. And they're not necessarily losses that we can afford to take.
So a follow up on that, where do you think the town would spend more and where could we spend less?
Is this for me?
Yes. And then Josh.
Yeah. Okay. We desperately need to spend some more on paving. We have some side roads that are. Not in great shape, and it's getting to the point where we're gonna be damaging town equipment on those roads. Which is kind of a. No-win situation. Obviously, the cost of paving right now is. Scary. But it's definitely something that needs to be looked at, and as far as where we could cut money. Good question, because we are just coming out of the budget cycle and. We did make cuts. I honestly don't know what we have left to cut.
I agree with Carol, going around talking to residents, get signatures. Spent some time at the dump with Jim and that was like the biggest thing I heard about was that road. I'll see to make sure like the fire department's funded and it's hard to make any cuts right now, so. Should always be looking for areas that we can operate more efficiently. Avoid unnecessary spending. Any efficiencies we can find, money in the taxpayer's pocket. Need to make sure we're still investing in our staff also, that's one of the town's top assets.
Diane, do you have any thoughts around where we could spend more or less throughout the town?
Roads are always the big issue. I'm the one who makes all the potholes, I'm knack for doing that. I don't really know, I think there's some things we could do, we could spend a little money on this planning process that I think is gonna get us somewhere down the road. I mean, as a citizen, I think we look at all the different things that are there, and we know. I love our philosophy that's on the signs, right? We're a little small town with a big heart, and that we're a town for all ages. I think anything we do that's in support of those things. Good.
Can I add to my answer? I would love to see us reach out with some of the surrounding towns that are similar in size and see if we can do some collaborative buying. You know, just on, if we could lock in with maybe Dixfield or Hartford, some things on maybe oil, maybe diesel. Even just go to the simple part of office supplies, anything that we could buy in bulk when we're partnering with somebody else, chances are we can save some money.
All right, Diane, thinking about land use and zoning, do you think our current ordinances are too restricted, too lenient, or about right? For the town of Canton?
I think most of them are just about right. We have room in almost every ordinance for variances, so if there becomes something that needs to scoot a little one way or the other, there's room in most of the ordinances for variances. And I think that I feel like once we've got them up to date, that helps put some of those flex points into the ordinances, and I feel like they're pretty much about right.
Carol and Josh, starting with Josh this time, what's your philosophy on property taxes in a small town like ours?
Well, there's two things in life, guarantee you, that's theft and taxes. That being said, in a small town, property taxes mean a lot to everyone. I think we need to be very mindful, and avoid unnecessary spending. While still making sure our essential services are, covered. Planning ahead is, will help, preparing for expenses down the road.
Try to pass that off then, while you're good. Taxes are a necessary evil. I just paid my second half yesterday. Not fun, but we are all benefiting from taxes. And I can do this story, I think, without tearing up. I've never been able to do it in the last, I think, 6 years. But the year that the school budget went to vote 5 times, I happened to be in the office and one of our older citizens came in and was kind of complaining about the school budget and the taxes and so on. And he made me believe that he was thinking that the school budget was being voted on repeatedly until the school got what they wanted. I said, that's not the case, they just need everybody passed. And he was always kind of I call him a curmudgeon, just kind of grumpy acting until you got to know him, and then you have a really decent conversation. And he said, I'm scared to death I'm going to tax out of my home. And that has stayed with me ever since. And I know we have a lot of people on fixed incomes, and this is why I hate budget season so badly. I think but we have to be able to operate, so we have to do it.
Okay. Back to Diane. Looking at property rights versus community impacts, how would you handle a project that is legal under our current rules but unpopular with neighbors and town citizens?
I think the planning board has a responsibility to make sure that all citizens are aware of all the projects. And then we have a lot of forums for feedback and input, right? We have public hearings, we have every meeting is public. People can come to any meeting where all these things are being discussed. I think the challenge is making sure all the information gets out there, that everybody gets a hold of it. But I think it's really just a matter of making sure everybody gets heard. And then we try to address those concerns. We're not going to address everybody. We're not going to make everybody happy, but I think if people are heard and they have a good forum for exchange ideas, that's a good thing.
All right, Carol, transparency and communications. How will you keep residents informed about decisions, especially those who don't attend meetings?
That's a tough one. I know for speaking for myself, I try to share as many posts as I can or brief posts on, this is coming up. You know, there's a meeting, might want to attend what the meeting is about. I feel that I'm very open if anyone approaches me and asks about anything coming up. It's, if they're not gonna come to a meeting. Honestly, it's a word of mouth thing, in my opinion. I mean, we can't go door to door to everybody, but if. Folks just willing to have conversations with anyone that asks.
Josh, what does transparency mean to you?
Transparency means. Being open about decisions. Explaining the reasoning behind them. Making sure residents have access to that information. And a chance to be heard. In practice, I mean. Sharing information clearly and consistently. While also respecting the need for something to be confidential.
Thanks.
Thank
Diane, looking at our infrastructure and long-term planning, how should the town prepare for potential population changes and or economic shifts?
I think we can do nothing and just let these things happen to us, because they're coming, right? Change is, nothing is static, or nothing's that, yeah, nothing's static in the town, everything's dynamic. Right, if you look at how the town was 50 years ago, 20 years ago, today, it's always changing. So anticipating those changes and trying to be proactive and say, how do we want to manage those? Rather than just let it happen to us and be reactive, I think it's a good thing. I think that's a key part of this comprehensive planning process that we're looking at. I think that gets people thinking about that stuff and saying, I mean, we're back to population numbers that are pre-bio. So we've exceeded that number, so that's gonna continue to grow and all likelihood it will. What does that mean for infrastructure? What does that mean for schools? What does that mean for housing? Those are all decisions we have to look at with a real estate lens and make some solid decisions going forward.
Decision making. Carol, how would you handle a conflict of interest involving a friend, neighbor, or local business?
I would try to be as. Judicial in my thought process as far as. I believe I told you back when I first came on board, that you and I are friends, and I was friends with many others that were on the board at the time. And if I didn't agree with you, I was probably gonna state that I didn't agree with you. But it's still gonna be okay at the end of the day. And unfortunately, when you're behind this table, you do make decisions that do irritate people. It's not anything that is done against any one particular individual or business. It's what needs to be done for the benefit or the betterment of the town. And as long as people. Some people don't, I'm not gonna say they don't understand it, but it's hard sometimes to see another point of view when you're upset. And so if you can just keep your cool and reiterate that these are the reasons why these decisions were made, then hopefully you can reach a point of understanding.
So Josh, kind of on the same road, if fellow board members disagree strongly about something, how would you work and work with the rest of the board members toward a decision?
Not everyone can agree on everything, you know, that's part of life and how good decisions are made, and feedback from everyone. Then it starts with listening to everyone, asking questions, trying to figure out, you know, what their side is on it. From there, you try to find a common ground. Work toward the decision that's best for the town. Even if it needs compromise at the end of the day. Not everyone's gonna be 100% in agreement, but we can still move forward.
Thanks. Diane, you mentioned shoreline zoning earlier, so how would you approach development near sensitive areas like waterways, lakes, forests, and or ag land?
Well, there's certain regulations you have to follow in all those areas because of shoreline zoning, right? You have to keep your distances, you have to do certain things. Those are regulations, you can't avoid those. I think one of the things the planning board is looking at is using the transparency, beginning with habitat maps as we do this planning process, so you can overlay everything, like here's the waterways, here's the wetlands, here's the deer wintering areas, here's the moose habitat spaces, so as we're planning for economic development, where we might want to see housing or businesses, you can kind of plan around those things. And we're hoping that's gonna be really helpful in the process. Great.
Let's see, Josh, back to you. What groups or perspectives in Canton do you think are currently underrepresented?
I think it's people that can't attend meetings. Whether it's working families, the younger generation, you know, people have busy schedules nowadays, so. Or it could just be the people that don't feel comfortable speaking up. It's important to make sure we reach those people, whether it's being available, sending a message or find time when you're out in the community to talk to someone about they feel an issue that they're passionate about.
Carol, kind of going along with that, how will you make sure all voices in town are heard, not just the most vocal voices?
And again, it's be out, be about, be willing to listen. The loudest isn't always the brightest. I mean, yes, as everybody, there's a lot of people that can yell loudly. Just because I can yell louder doesn't mean I'm right. But I think you have to put forth the effort to make yourself visible and accessible. And by accessible, it's, we all have town emails. Private emails, either way, and. At some point or another, we're usually in town somewhere doing something, so it's just be willing to listen.
Diane, looking at housing and affordability, how can the town support growth without pricing out our current residents?
That's a very tricky. If you solve that, you could build it. Okay, you know that.
Not yet.
Yeah.
I think that's, I mean, that's an issue for every single community, right? Affordable as a state. You look at the state projections for how many people are either looking for housing or how many businesses can't find housing for their employees. It's huge. It's huge. There's a lot of different initiatives going on. I think we have to look at which of those we think are right for the town and implement some of those changes. For example, today I sat on a meeting, AvCog is producing what they're calling pre-approved designs for small homes. So these are the ADUs that the state has passed in the legislature, accessory or dwelling units. Yep. Yeah, I keep thinking it's auxiliary, but I think it's accessory. So if you wanted to put either a addition on your home or convert your garage to in-law suite or put something on your property that you could rent, can you help meet the housing crisis with these small homes, right? And so AvCog is considering putting together a series of kind of pre-planned designs. So that if you're a citizen who wants to do this, you get access to this design pretty affordably, and it meets all the town permit standards ahead of time, so it should be a quick and easy process, and they're trying to see if they can facilitate that. Are those designs any good? I don't know. We just took a look at the first 3 today to see, and the question is, how do the citizens really benefit from this process, and is it gonna be a good thing for them? I think if the comp plan does a really good job of looking at locations in town and put different kinds of housing. Yeah, that could be a way to help as well, because we know the new houses we've added in the last 10 years have all been very high incomes. And so the overall valuation has gone way up. And most people who live here can't afford those homes. I mean, our street alone has had 7, and there's another big one proposed today in the last, since I've been here. That's 8 houses on 1 mile stretch of road. Yeah. And yours is one of them. Beautiful home. They're gorgeous homes. Right, but they're not affordable for most people who are living here first. And a huge percentage of our population, as you mentioned, are fixed income. And so you can't keep that. So I think it's a balancing act, and you have to create enough revenue to help offset some of those things. And I think be smart about how you're planning that.
Josh, growth services and infrastructure. I think you've already hinted to it a couple times, but what infrastructure services need the most attention right now? Roads, emergency services, schools, others?
But that I've gotten a lot of feedback from residents about our roads. They need some work, but it's expensive. At the same time, it's important to keep the support to our emergency services and infrastructure in Canton, so. Balancing act. We also need to keep a close eye on sewer, I feel like too, we just had to pull funds from other funds, cover some required testing. There's a new sewer department head there, seems like a really good guy, and he's got his head on his shoulders about what's going on up there, so kudos to the select board for finding him.
We got lucky.
Yeah. Seems like he's seeking grants and stuff for some repairs that need to be done there, so that'll help the residents too.
Carol, how should the town plan for the future with our limited resources that we have?
Carefully. I know that sounds, like a full answer, but we need to be mindful of the fact that we do have limited resources. The economy has not been headed in a positive direction for a number of years now. I think we're moving forward in the right direction as far as we have a timetable on knowing what piece of equipment needs to be replaced and how much more life we can hopefully eke out of everything that we have. And we contribute to the reserve accounts every year so that hopefully, that being said, when the time comes those pieces of equipment need to be replaced, it's not such a giant hit. 2 years ago, we started a reserve account to pay for the town revaluation, because that's a huge chunk of money. We hadn't done that in the past. I believe the last bill was. I believe it was 59,000, and that comes out all at once. And so we started the reserve account, we're putting 5,000 in every year so that. When the time comes again, we're not faced with it, well, it'll be more than 59 at that point. But, so it's trying to. Plan in steps, so that we're not, it's like the age old saying, how you eat an elephant one bite at a time. Just have to. Make the proper steps and do things slowly.
So I just say, I think the select board has done an excellent job, and the town's probably in the best financial position it's been in for a long time, and not, I mean, overall, the economy sucks, right? But the fact that we know where our money is, we know what's coming in, we know where it's going, I mean, that kind of systematic management is something that we haven't had a really good handle on for a long time, I just feel like we're doing great.
All right, we'll go through the group with one last question and then we'll open the floor to those here if you want to ask your own questions. Diane, tell us about a time you had to make a decision based on rules rather than personal opinion.
I don't know if I've ever said this out loud, but like, I am not a fan of the cannabis growing, consuming, operating, it's just not my thing at all. But we wrote and passed a medical marijuana retail establishment ordinance, and then people came and wanted to apply for those permits. And so even though I personally prefer not to do any of that, the ordinance was passed, the town voted in, and we had to administer that ordinance. As it was. So. We'll do it.
Josh, how should voters measure your performance if you're elected?
Good question. I think it comes down to being consistent, making thoughtful decisions. Being approachable, people should feel like they can come up to me if they see me at Big Apple, ask me a question. And know that I truly am listening. At the end of the day, voters should just judge me by whether I'm making decisions that are good for the for the town can. And being responsive to them when they talk to me.
And Carol, if residents disagree with your decisions, how should they approach you and how will you respond?
Well, I would hope that even if they disagree, there's approach me respectfully. We're never gonna please everyone. And as I said earlier, when you're behind this table, you make decisions that sometimes rub people the wrong way. And as I said earlier, hopefully you can talk with them and it's a civil discourse, and at the end of the discussion, you may still not agree, but at least you understand. And just make yourself accessible as always.
Alright, we'll open the floor. Anybody has questions for the candidates? Feel free to ask away. Sure.
I have a question. My name's Robin and I'm on the planning board. I agree. That it's really difficult to get people to engage. And I also think that it's because, when I was working 50, 60-hour weeks. It's hard to engage and give an opinion easily. Right, when you're juggling work and kids and whatever. So instead, like a poll, which is if you see me or come to this meeting, which is taking up more time. As their ideas to push information, either electronically, like maybe start getting. I'm a fan of polls, electronic polls out there to see something quick and easy that somebody can do on their phone. Have you ever thought of ideas like that, or do you think that that would work in a small town like this? I'm just thinking of younger people
We have
who
done
are
it.
so attached, right, to social media
Yeah.
and being able to give opinions like that.
I know in the past, we have done, I believe it's Survey Monkey. Some
Survey
polls.
Monkey,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, we had done some questions that way. The one that comes to mind is in regards to the community benefit fund. What are your ideas? We put forth some ideas on. How do you think that money should be used?
Did that work well when you did?
I guess it
And
depends
also
on.
had a community meeting around that.
Yes, we did.
2,000 people.
Yeah.
Which is a good turnout.
Yeah.
For things.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what your version of well is. We did get some responses, we didn't get a ton. What we've done, the most recent one though, actually, is as simple as the movies. There's 3 choices for movies that you guys wanna see, you know? So I mean, I think we do attempt to be
It's like
visible.
raise the digital
exactly,
awareness, right?
yes, yeah,
Because that's where younger people are at.
and it is, but that being said. Some of our older generation isn't
Isn't.
there, so it's, the town crier helps, but that only comes out quarterly, so. It's a messy situation on how you reach everybody and reach them timely and accurately, so. I don't know as I have a great answer for that, cause
It's just, I don't know the answer
Yeah.
either, it's just something I've been mulling around, right? I know I wanted to be more involved as a younger person, I just never had the time.
exactly,
But if it was easy for me, I would voice an opinion. I
Yeah.
think.
Would be cool too, like the town has an actual excellent website too. If they could post some type of online feedback form or something like that, whether it's on Facebook or.
So
Just
maybe we need to look for some kind of grants that'll help us digitally up our game,
I like,
make it easier.
yeah, I feel our website
Digitally up
is
our game.
underutilized at the current moment. I
Yeah.
mean, there is a lot of avenues that. In my opinion, could and should be explored on that, even down to the fact of. We bank with the Androscoggin Bank, we could have the option of doing online payments. I think that needs to go forward. And also some online billing, cause hey, we're gonna save ourselves some paper, we're gonna save ourselves postage. And with.
The office time.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to bash US Postal Service, but I just got a bill reminder yesterday for a bill I paid back on April 9th. So, safety and those electronic payments might be another way of looking at things too. So,
Joe, raise your hand up.
Yeah, this is for Carol, and I do apologize if we have to be redundant on your answers, but I really would like to prepare your definition of transparency and conflict of interest, those two, if you could give me. Your definition, transparency.
okay. Yeah, transparency is, as Josh said, not to, only on his answer. But is being open and above board with process. How we arrive at decisions and not doing things behind closed doors, in the secret. So it's making sure that the town is aware of what we're doing, how the decisions are done, what the process is and so on. And conflict of interest,
Mhm.
So what exactly is it you wanna know?
What is your definition of conflict of interest, and then I'll have my question for you, I just want to see where you're coming from on these two things. So conflict of interest, can you give me an example of what you think something would be?
Well, there's the legal definition, then there's just the everyday like.
Your everyday,
Okay.
I wanna know
Yeah.
you. That's,
Trying to figure out how I would answer that succinctly. And again, I'm not trying to borrow off anyone else's answers. But in our questions that we had seen beforehand, it was the one that Diane had received on unpopular decision making and how you do it. I, as her, wasn't happy about the marijuana referendum and the fact that we did it. And then we had people that wanted to take out licenses. And I, in particular, was against one of them. Legally, there was nothing we could do. So it was my own personal conflict of interest because I didn't like it. But there's nothing I can do about it, as far as legally goes. So, not sure if that's exactly what you're looking for.
okay, that helps, it helps. And then we've talked about all voices being heard and what have you, so my question is, being on the select board now and then running again, and, I'm wondering why you don't think that there's a conflict of interest with you being the admin for, you're from Canton and being on the board, because a lot of times things are shut down by an admin and the voice is not being heard. And I'm just wondering why you don't think that's a conflict of interest.
For starters, that is a personal page run by a resident in town. The only reason that I am on there is she is still the admin, I'm just an assistant. She had COVID a few years ago. And I reached out to her and said, cause she was very sick, I reached out to her and asked if she would like some help in monitoring the page. Because I knew at that point she was doing the pre-approved posts. Because the page was being hit with so many scam posts. And she said that she would appreciate that. And so that's the only reason that I'm doing that. As far as posts being shut down, I have not personally done any of that. I do not know what she does. So I can't answer for her, but
Right, so I know there was one post recently that was asking about referring to why don't you use the windmill money, and that was shut right down, so.
I did not do that.
People were assuming, and no one should assume, that it would be you because it had to do with the town, and that they're like, well, why is she even doing that? Because it's kind of a conflict of interest.
It was not me. I mean, I know that sounds like talk is cheap, but
No, that's fine.
I honestly have not deleted or stopped comments on any of the posts. I leave that stuff up to the one who started the page.
Okay, and then with all voices being heard, when we have our annual meeting, every year, it seems like, I make the motion. Two of you on the board will make the motion. I make the motion, I second. We've already seen what the board recommends. And I just feel that the people aren't getting a voice because it is really quick. Let's get through these. And then someone makes a motion, I make a motion to deny or accept, and then it's seconded real quick. And I'm wondering, is that the way it's gonna go this year too?
Say something about that. I think
Yeah.
the, in the Robert's Rules of Orders, somebody has to motion and second some position, right, for or against something, before you can have any discussion about it. So those really fast, I approve this, or I motion for this, I second it.
But it's always a board member that makes those motions, and so I'm just curious to know, we really don't have, last year it was that way. It was.
I think that's just to get
one
it, the
board.
article now, before you can vote on it, even now you can have a discussion, but you have to have that motion a second first, just to open it.
So why not give the townspeople a choice?
I'm happy to answer that one, Joan,
Mhm.
because I'm usually one of those people. A lot of it is to get the conversation started, because if nobody makes a motion, we can't talk. The way the Robert's Rules of Order works, so there are times when we make motions because we're sitting there with the paperwork in front of us, just like the townspeople are. Sometimes the townspeople make them. It's whoever talks first. It's the nature of the beast.
I've been to a few more,
Yeah.
and I was just curious
Mhm.
as to, you know.
Just to keep the conversation moving.
Okay.
I'd like to say that I'm not a select person, that made numerous motions and.
Mhm.
Other
Can
quick,
I just say one more thing about the website? I feel like, I don't know how to clean up the town's website. We have a lot of people from Canton, Mass, and Canton, Ohio, and Canton, somebody else that puts all kinds of garbage on there. And I mean, somebody's gotta go through and read them and delete them, but I don't know how we do that in a timely way. Because they're real startling sometimes. Some of them are real. Like, I pulled into the convenience store, the gas pump out, and you start to read and you're like, that's not even us.
Yeah.
Right, but they're all over the town's website,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, you gotta watch, cause they'll, like if I go on YouTube to watch a meeting or
Mhm.
something, it'll come up and it'll say town of Canton, or it'll say city of Canton. Like today, there was one that said city of Canton, and there was a fire truck and everything, and like, oh, and I turned it on, and it was another state.
But the ones that are on our town website, somehow we gotta figure out how to clean those up. Yeah.
Yeah,
There are some very rude ones on there.
Yes, they're distracting and not.
Thank you.
and I'd just
Karen.
like to say something about, Diane, I was in the same place as you are. I was dead set against the marijuana. Raising my kids, it was, oh, you don't do that. But I'll tell you something, I had a stroke and a brain aneurysm in 2015. Okay. When I left the hospital, it would have cost me $4,700 a month for my medication. One pill alone, I had to take for 7 days.
I'm right there, I have friends
And
that
it was
eat it for
from
medical
adult.
marijuana and I have perfect good.
If it wasn't for legal marijuana.
Yep.
I wouldn't be able to function, because my brain runs 900 miles an hour. And I get the speech impediment and everything. And I do it at night to relax my brain so that I can sleep. And there are a lot of, I was really shocked when I went to the first marijuana place. And I saw the elderly, and it's a damn shame that they have to resort to that. But I tell you what I'm taking is a lot healthier than what they've been putting into our bodies.
I agree, I have friends with rheumatoid arthritis who use it to relieve the pain and everything else.
Yep.
It has great medical applications. Yeah, I agree.
The medical
Just-
and fine, the rest-
Just something that people should think about when they do that, especially like here with all these seniors, because I know there's quite a few of them that have said that if it wasn't for that, they wouldn't be able to function.
And by the way, congratulations that you made it through all of that.
Thank you, Hope. He's tried to take me out 3 times, and apparently I'm there for a reason, I just haven't figured it out yet.
Just.
Any other questions? Hold on, twice.
Thanks for doing
Okay, well, I guess we'll do a quick closing. We'll start on the far end of the table. Carol, any last comments?
No, I appreciate everyone for coming. We gave this a trial run to see if it had any interest. I think it looks like it could be something very beneficial to continue. Again. I'm here, I'm available and willing to listen.
She hit the nail on the head pretty good, thanks to everyone coming, it's a nice experience. Reach me anytime you want and we can discuss stuff, try to make myself available to everyone.
Well, I have a weird out-of-state phone number, but call anyway, so. Had a number for 30 years and never changed it, so. Don't be scared to use it, but you don't know more about the comprehensive planning process coming up, then that's a great place to get involved. I would encourage you all to show up for those sessions as they.
All right. Well, thank you all for, thank you all for coming and. Got one last question?
It's not a question. I'm representing you people in District 77. I'm running for State House. My name is Arlie Hetrick. And I was here, I was wondering, I don't know if this is the place with, I was here to collect the Maine Clean Election Act for my campaign.
$2 or $5 or something.
Yep, $5 contributions. And, you know, if you guys have any questions, I'm here to answer too. Sounds pretty good about property taxes, those.
You're clearly not from Maine, where are you from?
I don't know.
Originally from, West Virginia, but I live in East Sticksville. I got a place up there, 16 acres. And, running for State House, the city, some changes. You know,
All right.
but I have information here, if anybody wants information.
We can hand out so you can scan photos, but
Yeah,
Can I ask you a question?
Question?
yeah.
Who else is running? You know,
Tammy Schmershel Bogus,
and your name is what?
Arlie Hetrick.
Thank you.
So you don't see it?
All right. Well, that's all we have for this evening. So feel free to hang around and talk or head home. And thank you all for coming.